Flags are supposed to define us, but what happens when your neighbor, or someone 5,000 miles away, has the same one? And for vexillologists, it's the ultimate identity crisis. Let's find out. Chad versus Romania. Line them up side by side, 3 vertical stripes, blue, yellow, red. They're so similar that even diplomats have raised the wrong one during ceremonies. Romania's tricolor was born from the revolution of 1848, a time when Europe was redrawing itself through fire and song. Blue stood for liberty, yellow for justice, red for fraternity, the ideals of freedom woven into symmetry. A century later, in 1959, Chad sought its own rebirth. Emerging from French colonial rule, it wanted a flag that mixed its Sahara sands with its endless sky. Yellow for the desert, blue for hope, red for the blood shed on its soil. Different continents, different centuries. Yet when Chad raised its new banner, the world did a double take. Romania had already claimed those colors. Same order, same proportions. Chad asked for diplomatic consideration. Romania shrugged. The United Nations stayed politely silent. No one wanted to argue over pigments. So the duplication stayed. Today, the only difference is microscopic. Romania's blue leans slightly toward cobalt, Chad's toward indigo. But under sunlight or on television, that distinction evaporates. It's become the Mona Lisa smile of flags, 2 faces, 1 expression, and yet there's poetry in the accident. Both nations fought for identity, for freedom, for recognition. Indonesia versus Monaco. Red over white, nothing else. Simple enough to be drawn by a child, powerful enough to represent 2 entirely different worlds. For Monaco, the red stands for the ruling Grimaldi family, a lineage tracing back to the 13th century. The white symbolizes purity of faith and loyalty, a flag of monarchy, polished and elegant, fluttering over a principality smaller than most airports. For Indonesia, the same red and white became a shout of independence, red for courage, white for honesty. It was raised in 1945 as a symbol of defiance against colonial rule. The design came from ancient Majapahit banners, centuries before Europeans arrived. 2 nations, 2 meanings, and yet the same flag. The only technical difference is proportion. Monaco's rectangle is shorter, a 4:5 ratio, while Indonesia stretches to a longer 2:3. But who notices math when both flutter in the same wind? Even international broadcasters mix them up. During sports events, graphics teams scramble to double-check hex codes. Once, the wrong flag was displayed during an Olympic ceremony, and both governments had to clarify who was who. It's the kind of diplomatic comedy that makes vexillologists groan, because the red over white combination is among the most ancient in human history, visible in Japanese heraldry, Polish banners, even old naval signals. It's universal, which is both its beauty and its curse. There's something almost philosophical about it. 2 very different nations, one royal and tiny, the other vast and democratic, meeting in design by pure accident. Ireland versus Ivory Coast. At first glance, you think it's Ireland, green, white, orange, the classic tricolor of Celtic fields and unity. But flip it around, and it becomes Ivory Coast, orange, white, green, the mirror image across an ocean. The resemblance isn't a copy, it's a reflection born from 2 revolutions at different times. Ireland adopted its flag in 1916 during the Easter Rising, with colors representing Catholics, green, Protestants, orange, and peace, white, between them. It became official in 1937, a flag about reconciliation and hope. Ivory Coast, emerging from French colonial rule in 1959, wanted something modern, simple, and symbolic. Orange for the savannas of the north, white for unity, green for the forests of the south. A vertical tricolor, the same pattern France used, but with local meaning. And by sheer coincidence, the palette lined up perfectly with Ireland's, just reversed. Even the proportions are identical. When both flags appear at sporting events, confusion is inevitable. In 2010, during an international match, broadcasters accidentally swapped them. To viewers, it looked like Ireland cheering from Africa. For vexillologists, it's a love-hate relationship. They admire the symmetry, but despair at the copy mirror effect. A flag is supposed to point toward identity. These 2 point toward each other. Yet the coincidence carries charm. Both nations share a post-colonial story, small countries finding pride after empire, and both wrap that story in optimism, earth tones, peace, and growth. In a way, they're siblings who don't know they're related. Flags, after all, aren't copyrighted. They're declarations, not designs, and sometimes declarations echo in different languages. The Nordic cross. Now we leave the world of accidental twins and step into one of deliberate resemblance, the Scandinavian kind. Look north and you'll find a cluster of countries waving what looks like the same banner in different color palettes, a cross shifted toward the left. Denmark's Dannebrog, Sweden's blue and yellow, Norway's red with blue and white, Finland's icy blue, Iceland's fiery red and blue. At first it feels repetitive, a designer's lazy template, but look closer and it becomes cultural poetry. It all began with Denmark, whose flag, a white cross on red, is the oldest still in use, dating back to the 1200s. Legend says it fell from the sky during battle, a divine sign of victory. That cross became a national heartbeat, faith intersecting courage. Centuries later, as neighboring nations gained independence, they borrowed that symbol not to imitate, but to belong. Sweden chose blue and gold, royalty and generosity. Norway added blue within white, a trinity of Nordic unity. Finland softened it into cool tones, white snow crossed by blue lakes. Iceland, the volcanic cousin, reversed the colors, a flame on ice. Each kept the cross, each changed the story. To outsiders, they're lookalikes. To Scandinavians, they're verses of the same hymn. It's the rare case where vexillologists smile at similarity, because this time the resemblance is the message. The cross isn't a copy, it's a shared heritage stretched across latitude lines. Even their regional flags, Åland, Faroe Islands, the Sami people, follow the same rhythm. It's designers' dialogue, 5 nations speaking in colors that rhyme, Romania versus Moldova. If Chad was Romania's accidental twin, then Moldova is its younger sibling, deliberate, proud, and impossible to mistake if you look closely. Both nations share the same tricolor, blue, yellow, and red. It's not coincidence, it's lineage. Moldova was once part of Romania before the Soviet Union drew new borders. When it became independent in 1991, it wanted a symbol of heritage, not rebellion. So it took the Romanian flag and added a coat of arms in the center, a golden eagle holding a cross and an olive branch, protecting a shield marked by an aurochs, an ancient ox of power. To outsiders, it looks like Romania wearing jewelry. But to Moldovans, that small emblem means everything. It says, we remember where we came from, but we stand on our own. Still, even today, in airports, sports tournaments, and world expos, Moldova's flag is often mistaken for Romania's when viewed from a distance or in low resolution. To a vexillologist, that's a crime of visual overlap. To history, it's a reminder that borders change faster than identities do. Australia versus New Zealand. Imagine 2 siblings showing up to the same party wearing the same suit, just different buttons. That's Australia and New Zealand. Both flags feature a dark blue field, the Union Jack in the top left corner, and a constellation of stars. They were designed under the same empire, around the same time, and for decades, nobody bothered to ask who copied whom. The details, though, matter. Australia's flag has 6 white stars, 1 large Commonwealth star and 5 smaller ones forming the Southern Cross. New Zealand's has only 4 stars, outlined in red, without the extra Commonwealth emblem. That's it, that's the difference. And yet, even world leaders have mixed them up. In 2018, British TV accidentally displayed the wrong one behind a Prime Minister. At sporting events, flags have been swapped mid-anthem. Australians shrug, New Zealanders roll their eyes. In 2016, New Zealand even tried to fix the problem. A national referendum offered citizens a chance to pick a new design, something uniquely theirs. Millions voted. Result? They chose to keep the old one. Because while design experts crave difference, people crave familiarity. Sometimes, even a confusing flag feels like home. Romania, Moldova, and Andorra. If Romania and Moldova are family, Andorra is the cousin who lives in the mountains but dresses almost the same. All 3 nations share the same layout, vertical stripes of blue, yellow, and red. Andorra's flag sits between France and Spain, literally and symbolically. The French gave the blue and red, the Spanish contributed the yellow, and the country blended them into unity. In the middle rests a coat of arms, combining Catalan and French symbols with a Latin motto that translates to "Strength united is stronger." Put all three flags side by side, Romania, Moldova, Andorra, and you'd swear the world ran out of color ideas. But beneath the sameness lies geography and history intertwining like threads of a tapestry. They share linguistic roots, Catholic traditions, and 19th century revolutions that inspired tricolor designs as symbols of democracy and freedom. They look alike not because of laziness, but because of shared values. To the casual observer, it's duplication. To Europe, it's visual heritage, the continent's quiet family resemblance stitched across borders. The Pan-African color explosion. Then there's Africa, where one flag design became an entire movement: red, yellow, and green. You've seen it on Ghana, Cameroon, Senegal, Mali, Guinea, and dozens more. To a vexillologist, it's overwhelming. To Africans, it's pride. It started with Ethiopia, one of the few nations never colonized. Its flag, green, yellow, and red, stood for faith, power, and freedom. When African countries began gaining independence in the 1950s and 60s, they looked to Ethiopia as a symbol of resilience. Its colors became the blueprint for liberation. Each country added its own meaning. Ghana added a black star for unity. Cameroon placed a yellow star at the center for peace. Senegal's star turned green for Islam. Mali removed the symbol entirely, leaving pure simplicity. Suddenly, entire regions shared nearly identical flags, variations of the same three colors, in different orders. Critics call it visual redundancy. Supporters call it solidarity. And maybe both are true, because while each design waves for a different nation, together they tell a single story. A continent standing up side by side in one palette of hope. The Arab liberation flags. Not all look-alike flags come from coincidence. Some come from revolution. Across the Middle East, red, white, black, and green appear again and again. Egypt, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Jordan, Palestine, Sudan. Different shapes, same story. These are the Pan-Arab colors, born from the Arab Revolt of 1916 against Ottoman rule. Each color represents a dynasty, a dream, or a shared identity. Black for the Abbasids, white for the Umayyads, green for the Fatimids, red for courage and sacrifice. Egypt's flag carries the golden eagle of Saladin. Iraq's bears the phrase, Allahu Akbar. Syria's stars symbolize unity. Yemen dropped the emblems for pure simplicity. They all trace their roots to one original banner, the flag of liberation that united Arabs under a single cause. Over time, that unity splintered politically, but stayed visually intact. To vexillologists, this family of flags is both brilliant and frustrating. Brilliant, because it shows solidarity. Frustrating because when you see one from afar, you can't tell which nation it belongs to until you spot a detail, a star, a crest, a word. It's a visual metaphor for the region itself, connected by history, divided by design. In a world of patterns and parallels, flags remind us that identity isn't always about difference. Sometimes it's about dialogue. Every color tells a story. Every resemblance hides a connection. If you've ever mistaken one flag for another, you're not alone. Learn, share, and look closer, because behind every copy lies a reason it mattered.